Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show for Thursday, February 11th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack are back to break down the Thursday college basketball card. We're getting closer to March. The clock is ticking, folks. We're getting to the fun part of the season, the most exciting part of the season. Conference tournaments are only a few weeks away. The NCAA tournament, we're about a month out from Selection Sunday. In the NCAA tournament. By the way, I didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday, and talking about this reminds me to talk about it right now at this point in time. And I'm looking at this as a situation where the NCAA tournament for decades, okay, we're talking about decades of tradition. What have we seen with the tournament? We've seen Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday with the opening weekend of the tournament. What have we seen with the regional semifinals and finals, the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight? Thursday, Saturday, the teams play on Thursday, the winners play Saturday. The teams that play on Friday, the winners play on Sunday again. Well, now the NCAA tournament figures, I don't know, maybe because we're all in the same city or it's COVID-19. I don't know why they have decided on this. But all of a sudden they said, let's throw some Monday and Tuesday games out there at you, instead of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't get it. This is tradition. This is decades worth of the NCAA tournament schedule being the same. And all of a sudden, you're going to just uproot everything and change things around and make it different. And you're going to throw in these Monday and Tuesday games. People actually plan their freaking lives around the NCAA tournament. Honestly, and that's no hyperbole. That's no bullshit. People honestly plan their work schedules, life schedules. If you've got, you got to go to your mom's birthday party or whatever, you'll make it on a day when the NCAA tournament's not playing. Honestly, there's people I know have done that. I know firsthand because I've talked to friends of mine. They said, if there's a family function going on, they know how obsessed I am with the NCAA tournament. They'll say, you know what, we'll move it to a day when the tournament's not going on. And all of a sudden now we're dealing with Monday and Tuesday college basketball games during the tournament. We never had this before. Decades of tradition down the drain and a schedule that's all completely screwed up now. I don't like it one bit, and I just had to do a little rant session there to talk about it. Conor, what do you think before we get into the games today? What do you think of this? To me, this is decades now, not just years in a row, decades in a row. We've been used to this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule, first and second round weekend and the regionals weekend, and now all of a sudden we're going to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we'll throw some Tuesday games in there too. I don't understand why.
It bums me out. And see, Matt writes here, it's more TV money. It is, but that would have been done years ago. I mean, I think that would have been done 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I just don't get why now. And like you said, everyone schedules, all their stuff around it. And it's just been such a tradition. The Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday. It kind of sucks. It's just going to be weird, and we're going to have to get used to. Yeah, Donnie did a video on it on Pub here. I haven't seen it yet.
Did.
But here,
yes, he did.
I'm going to watch it. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's kind of a bummer, but I guess we got to move on. It's these weird times. Everything's kind of changed in our lives. Just one more not thing to change. College basketball, the NCAA, changing decades, like you said, of the normal schedule. So time to move on, I guess.
Yeah, it's just at the end of the day, when the tournament comes around, I'll be fine. It's just through you for a loop that you're just so used to it. It's like it's just like ingrained and it's like lasered into your mind that Thursday to Sunday is always these tournament first 4 days. Now you got to get used to Friday.
Those first 4 days, yeah.
It's a marathon. It's one of my favorite 4-day weekends in all of sports, to be honest with you, because you got games from noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, all the way to like midnight, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific time. It's just that all day and all night binge marathon of tournament viewing and tournament betting for me. And it's always a great 4 days. And we're still going to have it, but we're going to have it Friday to Monday this year with this tournament. All right, let's flip our attention now to finding some winners on the Thursday card. We'll start at the top of the rotation. As always, we've got, this is probably one of the weaker games on the slate, but Portland taking on Pacific. Pacific 15-point home favorites here, 136.5 the total in this game. I like the way Damon Stoudemire's Pacific Tigers group have played lately. They've been better. They scared the hell out of Gonzaga for well over a half before Gonzaga finally pulled away from them. I would expect them to win this game. Pacific, they've shot the ball markedly better of late, so it gives me more hope that they could cover this kind of big number, but they're still not historically, traditionally a team that is the kind of team I trust as double-digit chalk. You're talking about a slower-paced team. They do play solid defense, but still overall, they're not the kind of team I'm looking to lay 15 with. I'm just looking to see what I had. I had Pacific minus 14 as my number in this game, so it's right where it should be. Passing on this game personally. Conor, what's your thoughts? Portland Pacific.
Real quick, I'll talk about it. Last night, my best bet sucked. It's tough. But Iowa came to play, so I got to eat my shit. They had 11 of 23 of threes. Rutgers was 6 of 28. Hopefully we'll catch a winner today. I was pretty bummed. I thought they could get there. Rutgers, bad shooting. Couldn't get to the free throw line. Iowa 16 of 20 from the line. But here in Pacific, I think it's the same number too, and I don't want to lay a number with Pacific. I think they're playing better. I still think they have struggled scoring the basketball. So there's no way. And we talked about how bad Portland is. And what happened? Wait, at least Terry Porter's gone. We got a Terry Porter sighting. He's out of there. He's probably 2.5 years, due. I think they'll play a little harder today. I'd lean Portland catching the 15, but you're right. I'm not going to play it. I don't want to sweat on that one. So it was a pass for me.
Yeah, it's been a program that for years now has been terrible. And it's going to take, I don't know where they're going to go now from a coaching standpoint, but it's going to be a tough turnaround for whoever takes over this program. They look like they're in a little bit of a hopeless state at this point. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, 6.5-point home favorites here, 139 the total in this game. Interesting matchup here. You got a bit of a rivalry game. I'm a little surprised, a little bit perplexed that Georgia Southern's taken this amount of money. I like the Georgia State team a little bit. It's getting down now to the point there where I might be interested in the Georgia State side, but not a game I really had much consideration for. If the number creeps down a bit more, maybe then I'll get involved with the Panthers of Georgia State here. I do think they're the better of these two teams, but sometimes in those rivalry games, it can be a bit difficult to lay points. Nevertheless, I do lean Georgia State. Just a lean, though. C-Mac, what do you think? Georgia Southern, Georgia State.
Okay, sorry, the computer's still frozen. Anyways, Georgia State's got way more talent here. But I think 6.5. Georgia Southern's been playing pretty well lately. I didn't bet this one either, but I'd lean the other way. I'd take the 6.5 with Georgia Southern. Just two teams playing different. But on your point, Georgia State has the better talent overall round. You just got to lay the 6.5 here. There was a pass for me. I didn't play it as well, but I'd lean with Georgia Southern here, catching the 6.5.
All right, we go to the Pac-12, Utah, California. We've got Utah, 4.5-point road favorites, 132 the total. Some money on Cal. I can understand it. Cal as a home dog. I probably trust that a little more than Utah laying points on the road. I mean, Utah, as we know, is a very young team under Larry Kraskowiak this year. A team that I don't necessarily trust laying points on the road. But I've also tried betting Cal a couple times in various roles, road underdog, home underdog. I haven't laid points with Cal, but I've tried them in the dog role a few times, and I've been burned for it. Some of those losses were against, Arizona, Stanford, better teams than Cal. So maybe this is going to be a better opportunity here for Utah, but we'll have to, or for Cal to cover a number here against Utah. We'll have to wait and see. They did cover the last time at Stanford, 76-70 loss as 10-point dogs. Utah has won 2 in a row, though, 77-74 at Colorado, but they were road dogs there. They beat Arizona at home 73-58. So you're seeing improvement from this Utah team. They're playing some of their better basketball right now, but I'm not ready to go out and lay 4.5 with them on the road. But I've been burned enough by Cal as well that I'm not going to back them. I am going to look at the under in this game. And I'm not much of an under guy at all. But you look at these two teams, I think Cal is going to struggle to score the basketball. I'm surprised that this total is in the 130s. You look at some of their recent games, particularly, on their home court against good defensive teams. UCLA, they only got to 118. Stanford, 125 at home. Utah doesn't shoot the ball as well for the most part on the road. Their defense, though, Utah has played pretty good in recent games. They've had some games where they've held teams into the 60s and into the 50s. In fact, they've done that in 5 of their last 7 games, holding teams below 70. So I do lean a little bit to the under here, 132. Utah, Cal. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, when Cal's at home, I'd lean a little bit towards the under. When they've been away, they've played some overs this year, with low numbers. I had them catching the 11 on Sunday and the over. And a lot of them were junk time points, thank God, late, in that game against Stanford. I got it. You know about me in Utah on the road. They're not very good, but they've played well the last few weeks. The win at Washington State. They've had a few big wins. They beat Colorado. That was big. This one was a real tough one, but I'd lean Utah. I just don't think Cal has the depth. I see 1-4 at DraftKings. It's 4.5. You might want to wait. You might get 4. I'd lean with Utah. I think they're the better team. They're kind of this way. Cal's kind of done. And with Cal, I've been hit and miss with him. I'm probably 3-3 on the year with them. And all taking points, of course. Tough one here, but I lean with the Utes. It's just, do you want to pay that little premium on the road with them? I'll see tonight. They've played a lot better on the road the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to roll with Utah -4.
All right. Yeah, they are. They're playing their best basketball. So we'll see if Utah can turn around again. We'll see if they can live up to the billing. See, that's the dilemma. They've not been good, laying points on the road, but they've also not faced a team during that run as weak as Cal, in that role.
Exactly,
so let's see if maybe they can handle Cal. And it's a short enough number where you can see Utah maybe squeaking out that 5-point, 6-point, 7-point win. So we'll see how that one shakes out. We've got a really good game coming up next year in the Pac-12, Colorado and Stanford. Colorado 1-point road favorites here, 137.5 the total. The money's come in on Stanford because they're getting everybody back. It looks like it's all hands on deck. It's all systems go for Gerard Haas's Stanford team. It looks like they're going to have their first fully healthy team in several weeks. Bryce Wills is back. He returned the last game. Zaire Williams, the fantastic Frosh, he is cleared to play. He was in COVID-19 protocol. Dejon Davis, is likely going to be able to play and be eligible to return for this game. So you're looking at pretty much your entire crew of players and your top players back tonight for Stanford. I think that matters. You could argue that, hey, they haven't played in a while. Maybe it throws things out of rhythm, out of whack a little. But, hey, you're getting some of your best players, your top scorers back. I think it can only help this Stanford team. And if you're going to try to bet against Colorado, this is the place you want to try to bet against them on the road. They have been a little bit more susceptible away from Boulder. They're only a 4-4 team straight up on the road this season. You flip that over, Stanford 4-1 straight up. It's a good Colorado team, make no mistake about it.
Yeah.
With McKinley leading the way for them, very experienced. They've had a very good season, pretty solid at both ends of the floor. But I think this sets up well for Stanford here. They're fully healthy. They've been pretty solid. They've been playing good basketball. Remember, they couldn't play a home game in Palo Alto for the longest time, but since they've gotten back there, the overtime win against UCLA, they beat Cal in their last game. They've had some better results. They've hung tough with USC, fell short there. But again, all of those losses, shorthanded team. Now they're getting all their artillery back, so to speak, top scorers, guys that lead them in minutes played. I think it's going to make an absolute difference for them tonight in this game. Let's not forget, Colorado did. I don't know how this happened, but they somehow did lose on the road at Washington. I don't know how the hell that happened for Colorado, but it happened. So that's proof right there that they're capable of losing this on the road against Stanford. So I'm going to go Stanford here, +1, slight home dog. I think they get the win, and I think getting everybody back is going to have them fired up for this game. And I think they need the win a little bit more than Colorado. I think Colorado's definitely, I would say, in the tournament now. I don't know about Stanford. I think they're right on that precipice. They might be in, they might not be in. This would go a long way to putting them in this win tonight. I like Stanford, though, here. Conor, what do you think? Colorado, Stanford.
Yeah, it looks like everyone's back. I don't know how much playing time Williams will get. We'll see. Like you said, I think they're all clear to go, but I don't know how much they'll go. And we'll see how the chemistry this is messed up because Stanford's kind of hang tough with all these guys out. And it's really Oscar da Silva. He's the guy, and I think he's just got to be the guy tonight in this one. I'm with you. I haven't betted yet, but definitely I'm leaning to the Cardinal, to the tree here. While Colorado is good, I love them at home. Have a little bit, like you said, tougher time on the road. They're dealing with a few injuries. Batty's got a bum ankle, a few others. So stay on tune of the injuries before tip-off on this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go ahead with Stanford. Like this spot for them here in this game. Texas State, UT Arlington. Texas State 1.5 point road favorites, 127, 128 to 2. I think the number's a little bit short here on Texas State. I think they win the game here, even though it's on the road. Arlington, the Mavericks are a team that in this Sun Belt Conference, I think they peaked a couple of years ago. They had that Kevin Harvey kid on the team. He was excellent. That was a really good Arlington team. I don't think this year's edition, or last year for that matter, this team has been quite as good. Texas State's shown the ability to get the job done some at times here away from home. I kind of like Texas State here. Connor, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've nothing really on the side because at the line, I just don't love Texas State, even laying the 1.5 on the road. I look towards the under. Texas State's super slow pace, and Texas Arlington's got a pretty good defense. I think they've had, I don't know, 6 out of 7, their last unders. Sorry, my computer's out. It's something like that. They played a lot of low totals, so I'd look towards the under 127 in this one.
Yeah, that's I know firsthand how difficult it can be to talk about games when you don't have your computer working properly for you. But Connor's he's fighting it. He's giving it the good go here. Fighting the good fight here with technical issues, which seem to happen a lot for both of us. We've had our frustrations with technology, believe me, in the past. Iowa State, Kansas. Kansas 15-point home favorites. Total 144.5, 145 in this game. Beware of this mighty little Iowa State covering machine. The last few games. I mean, you got to start paying attention to some of these teams that are just so awful for early in the season, November, December, like Iowa State was. But then when they start to be a little bit more competitive, they're still not even winning games. They've lost 8 straight games, Iowa State, coming into this game. But we're not talking about winning games with them. We're talking about covering point spreads. And they have started doing that, Iowa State. 3 straight point spread covers in Big 12 play, a 4-point home loss to West Virginia, a 7-point road loss to a surging Oklahoma team. I thought they made a great account of themselves in that game. And at TCU, the last game, they led most of that game and let it slip late, but got the point spread cover and a 3-point loss. That's what I'm talking about with Iowa State. I'm not talking about winning the basketball game. I'm talking about just hanging in there and covering. And this ain't vintage Kansas. Not even close. No. This is not Self's best team. Yeah, I like Marcus Garrett. Yeah, they've gotten a lot from the big man lately as well. He stepped up his game for this Kansas team in recent games. Ochai Agbaji as well. But still, overall, you look at this Jayhawks team, they have not been consistent at either end of the floor. I don't think defensively they've been very good at times. You look at some of the point totals they've given up. They gave up 91 on the road to West Virginia, 80 on the road to Tennessee, 75 to Oklahoma, 77 to Baylor, 75 to Oklahoma State. They've struggled. They've also trended over the total. We're looking now at 7-3 to the over for Kansas in their last 10. Iowa State's been an over machine, 7 straight overs for them coming into this game tonight. So I'm coming at this game from a side perspective and a totals perspective. I think Iowa State, it's too many points for Kansas here. I would look at Iowa State here, plus 15, plus 15 and a half. And I'm also going over this total here, 144 and a half. Mid 140s with this Iowa State team looks pretty reasonable right now. Look at these results for Iowa State with their numbers. The total points scored. We had 151 against Mississippi State, 148 against West Virginia, 151 against Oklahoma, 155 the other night against TCU. All of those numbers clear this total, sitting at 144 and a half. So give me Iowa State in the over in this game against Kansas. Connor, what's your take on this Big 12 game?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you got to only look to the over here, kind of, because as the trends you talked about, Kansas games going over, and Iowa State really been an over team, all those in a row. So I think it's set pretty fair at 144. I haven't bet yet, but I'd lean over. And I'm with you here. Too many points. Iowa State's gotten healthy. Then this isn't a vintage Kansas team. I think they're good. I think this is 10 or 11. If they were 9, maybe you bet Kansas and feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable laying 15 right now with Kansas, not this team. Can they win by 20? I'm sure. But I think the Iowa State team you get is more team that's played well lately against TCU, against Oklahoma. And how pumped up is Kansas going to be tonight? I mean, and at least Iowa State's showing some fight. a little bit. They've gotten their whole team back after COVID, suspension, all the stuff that's gone on. So I think it's a ton of points. I'll take the 15 with Iowa State.
All right, Iowa plus the points. Again, these sneaky little teams that start out so badly, and now all of a sudden, here we are mid-February, there's value with them. This is a classic case of that, and you see these kind of teams every year in college basketball. Eastern Washington, Montana State. Eastern Washington, 2.5-point road favorites, 152.5, 153 the total. The total's gone up. I agree. I would look over this total. You're going to get pace on both sides with Eastern Washington and Montana State. Montana State, though, has been, we were wondering if this team beat up on a lot of cupcakes early on here in the Big Sky season. I know I've kind of ripped Montana State's strength of schedule early on when they got off to that really, really good start. They hadn't really played your Weavers. They hadn't really played, your Montanas, your Eastern Washingtons, your better teams in the Big Sky Conference for the most part. But there's definitely this Bobcats team has been pretty solid. They are coming off, taking a couple on the chin against Weber State in their last two games, both on the road, but a very good Weber State Wildcats team. At home, they've been solid. They've been able to get the job done at home, no doubt about that. All that being said, the number now is in a short enough range where I wouldn't think there's enough value for me to take Montana State. I kind of lean that way, but Eastern Washington's really good, especially offensively. They've won 5 straight. On the road, they split with Northern Colorado, and they lost the first of the meetings there by 2. They beat up on Idaho in their last road game. It's not saying much, but Eastern Washington still got very good offensive capabilities. The over's 5-0 in their last 5 road games, 6-1 overall in their last 7. I'm only a lean to the side, Montana State, but I do like this total. And even at the number going up now, it's 153 across the board, 152.5 in some spots. I still think there's just enough value. You could still maybe go ahead, bet the over here in this game. I think we'll see some points scored. Conor, what's your thoughts? Eastern Washington, Montana State.
Yeah, I got just a lean. I think there's a little value on the over, but it's getting up there at 153. I'd have to still go with Eastern Washington. I'm not going to play it, but it's just a lean for me. I think they can get the job done here on the road. I think Montana State is just not that, and I don't think Eastern Washington's really, but in this conference that they play in, they're the best team, at least top 2. So I think even they could get a win in here, 3 or more. So I'd lay the 2.5 with Eastern Washington and lean towards the over.
All right, next up, we've got Troy, South Alabama. South Alabama, 6-point home favorites, 134.5 the total in this game. We've got Troy coming off splitting a pair of games with Georgia Southern. They lost 79-64, though, in the most recent meeting. South Alabama, tough to go against them right now. 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers, beats Coastal Carolina twice, beat Georgia Southern by double digits, and then a really impressive road win, outright as underdogs at Georgia State, 70-67 for South Bama in their last 4 games. And here we are now, the Trojans, South Alabama on this 4-game win streak, 4-game point spread streak. However, Troy's been, in a good groove of their own. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and they're the ones getting 5.5, 6 here. It's tough. I would lean South Alabama, but it is got that little leery pit of my gut feeling of a potential letdown after the big win on the road against Georgia State. As a home favorite, this team has only, been a home favorite a couple of times, and they've been kind of shaky in that role. So I can understand why people from a spot perspective are coming at Troy here and backing them. But you've got the South Alabama team with 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers, including beating arguably the best team in the Sun Belt. They're playing good enough where I don't want to stand in their way. So it's conflicting arguments for me. So it's a pass with this game. Conor, what do you think with Troy and South Alabama?
Real quick, I'll hit up our guys. Trance, what's up? Billy Briz. Yeah, he's right. Kansas, Kentucky, Duke. They're all terrible. There's the Czar. What's up, my guy? Yeah, KU might want to win. Yeah, it's on ESPN. Fat Wally, thanks, brother. And we'll get to Weber State next, Star Child. I think that might go over as well. In this one, I don't see much of anything here. South Alabama's been playing well, but this is numbers. I don't want to be laying 6.5, in this kind of spread against them. Their last few wins by 3, 4, 6. It was a quick pass because I just don't want to lay a number like this with them, and I don't have enough confidence right now in Troy to take it. So it was a pass for me.
All right. Next up, we've got this might be, even though this not Montana's not have been a vintage team this year, that's an understatement, just 7-9, but this is still, one of the better rivalries in the Big Sky for years, Weber State and Montana. How many conference tournament championship games these two teams have played each other in? I mean, it's a good rivalry. It's renewed tonight with Weber State 1-point road favorites, 138 the total here in this game. I just think right now Weber State's the better of these two teams, and I can only look to Weber State here. Pick them -1. I mean, this is not as good of a team here, Montana, this year. They've had some really odd, bizarre, bad losses, you could say, this throughout conference play. How do you lose as 13-point home favorites to Northern Arizona? How does that happen? How do you lose at all to Sacramento State? How does that happen? They split against Portland State in these two games on the road, but they were fortunate and erased a deficit to win the first one in overtime, and then they lost the second one, 61-56. So I can't really say Montana's been all that impressive here. You look at Weber State, they are a really, really good offensive team. They're tough to stop. 81+ in 4 straight games. They can fill it up, but now they're all of a sudden starting to play some defense. That's helping their cause a little bit. Montana offensively has kind of struggled at times to put the ball in the basket. Can they get it going here against Montana? We'll have to wait and see on that. Head-to-head, you look at recent series history, it's been all over the map, man. We've had some low-scoring games. We had a 72-37 game with these teams last year, but we also had an 87-85 game. We had a 75-57 game 2 years ago, but then the other meeting was 83-80. So, we've had some extreme low-scoring games. We've had some extreme high-scoring games. So, to me, that makes betting this total very volatile. But I do think I like Weber State enough here that I'm going to bet them at pick 'em -1. Very cheap price. I just think the eye test tells me they're better right now than Montana. You look at their road record as well in the season for Weber State. Only 3-4 straight up on the road. A little concerning, but I'm going to look past that and take them here against Montana. Connor, what do you think, Weber State, Montana?
Me too. I think Weber's just the better team. Montana struggles at times to score. That's why while you saw in the Montana State, both those games flew over, and I was on both of them. I'm a little cautious here. I think it gets over, but Montana can be real slow and can't score at times. We'll see if their pace gets picked up, because Weber State can score in bunches and make shots. So I lean towards the over, but as a pick 'em here, I got to take Weber State. I'm with you.
All right, next up, we've got UL Monroe, UL Lafayette. We've got Lafayette, 9.5-point home favorites, 138 the total in this game. Good old Sun Belt rivalry here in this one. It's obviously been a very, very rough season for ULM, 4-15 overall on the season. Just been a rough go for the Warhawks. They've lost 10 straight games. They have started to cover, though. This is like Iowa State a little bit here in the Sun Belt with this Monroe team. You're going to look, you see they've lost 10 in a row, but they've covered 3 of their last 4. 4-point loss to Little Rock team. Then they lost the rematch by 16. And then they played UT Arlington. They lost by 7. They lost by 6 in those 2 games against UT Arlington. They're getting a lot of points here. Lafayette is home favorites. Arkansas State, they won by 13. They won by 3 as 10-point home favorites. They split with Little Rock. They have lost 2 in a row coming into this game against Arkansas State, both on the road. UL Lafayette, now they return home. You just worry that after 2 straight road losses coming back home, they just mean business and they drill this Monroe team. But Monroe's been sneaking inside the number, getting this many points, in 3 of their last 4. So believe it or not, I lean to the ugly underdog here, very much like Iowa State in the game we talked about earlier in the show. So I lean a little to Monroe here, plus 9.5. Connor, what's your thoughts on this one?
Me too. I'm not going to play this one, but I'd lean towards Monroe catching the 9.5. The big one in this game is the total. I was looking at Lafayette's just been an over team, and Monroe's been a dead under team, like their last 6 or 7 games. So it's kind of a clash here, and that's what had me off here as well. Yep. 2 different styles here. Lafayette wants to get up and down. Monroe's a lot slower. They struggle to score. So it was a pass for me all around, side and total.
All right, back to the Pac-12, Oregon State Beavers, Arizona Wildcats. Arizona 11.5-point home favorites here, 140 the total in this one. It's definitely a lean to Arizona here. I don't know if Oregon State's going to have the horses to hang with the Wildcats on the road for 40 minutes. I have my concerns about whether they're able to. We've seen signs of this from Oregon State, especially of late, where they. I think if you like Oregon State here in any fashion in this game, I think the first half might be a better bet because I find that they've been hanging around for a half or so, and then Wayne Tinkle's team just gets run out in some of these games in the second half, and that's what you worry about here in this game against Arizona. The Wildcats, they may not take Oregon State lightly either. That's the even greater concern because they're coming off back-to-back road losses, albeit tough. That two-game road trip, I don't care how good or bad Utah is every year. You ask any Pac-12 team, that two games in 3 days road trip through Utah and Colorado back-to-back, it's difficult. It's weird travel. It's high altitude, thin air. You wear down very quickly, physically, mentally. You get exhausted, and Arizona ran into that in that game. You look at Oregon State on the road, though, blown out by USC. They did cover against UCLA, but UCLA missing key personnel at that time. They had the shocking win against Oregon, kind of looks like an anomaly. And then the last road game against Colorado, 78-49. They get eviscerated in this game. I think that might be in store for them here. Didn't lay the 11.5 with Arizona, but I would lean in that direction. Conor, what about you? Oregon State, Arizona.
Yeah, two teams that aren't very good this year. Arizona has nothing to play for, a bunch of talent. They're coming back home. But is this line too large? Maybe. We'll see. This one has got me thinking all day. I like to take Oregon State, but like you said, can they just put 40 minutes together? We talk about in some of these teams, I'll bring it up later with UNLV. They just seem to fold in the second half. So your first half look might be the way to go if you're liking Oregon State. I haven't bet it, but I'd lean with the points with the Beavers in this one. Nothing on the total. I'd lean over. And they got at Oregon State, Arizona kicked their ass by 30? So I think Oregon State, remember that a little bit in the back of their mind. So I think they play better here. That's why I lean with Oregon State in the points.
All right, Big Ten action, Purdue and Minnesota. We've got the Gophers, 2.5-point home favorites at the barn, as it's affectionately called, 140.5 the total in this one. Minnesota's become pretty simple team to figure out. You don't want to back them on the road, but you absolutely do want to back them at home. They've been a very, very good home team. It's been a good, solid home court for them this year. Their home results have been solid. The one loss to Maryland's about the only time they had a hiccup at home. Other than that, they've beaten Ohio State at home. They beat Michigan at home. They've had some really good home wins. They play better. They shoot better. They seem to be better defensively as well at home this season. Purdue, on the other hand, has been kind of the opposite. Not hard to trust them on the road. At Maryland they lose. At Indy, or they lose at Illinois. They lose at Rutgers. The road wins were against some mediocre competition. Indiana, Michigan State. Really, only one quality road win was Ohio State for this Purdue team. They're coming off a less than inspiring win against Northwestern at home, 75-70. That was in West Lafayette, barely getting by with the victory there in that game. I think Minnesota's the side here, -2, -2.5. I went with the money line instead, -145 here on the Gophers. This looks like deja vu all over again from Missouri and Ole Miss last night. Same point spread. You've got the unranked team laying points at home as a home favorite over the ranked team as a slight road underdog. And that's what we saw with Ole Miss, Missouri last night. And sure enough, the unranked home favorite rolls to victory over Missouri. And that kind of has me thinking, that's almost like a red flag or a telltale sign from odds makers that Minnesota might be the side here, that they're favored over a ranked team. And we know Purdue has not been Mr. Consistent on the road, whereas Minnesota's played their best at home. So I'm going to look to the Minnesota side. I'm also going to look over the total because Minnesota does push pace more on their home floor. They've been able to do that this season. Now, they've trended over under the total at home lately, but haven't faced anyone quite like Purdue. I think we're going to get this. Purdue will do enough offensively to get there. A smaller bet on the over, but I like Minnesota, the side, a little bit more. Conor, what do you think? Purdue, Minnesota.
Yeah, the total, I don't know if it'll get there, but usually Minnesota at home scores more, so I think it could get over. When these teams played a couple weeks ago, I was on Purdue and it got over. But I'm with you. Minnesota at home, they're laying 2.5. This is where I want to take them. I think they're just an okay basketball team, but give me the Gophers here at home. Even though I think Matt Painter and Purdue's played pretty well as of lately, I'm going to go with Minnesota here, laying the 2 at home, 2.5.
All right, like in Minnesota as well. UT Martin, Austin P. Beware, this game's like tipping off in minutes. This is a 4 p.m. game. Austin Eastern. Austin P, 15-point home favorites, 143 the total in this one. Austin P's lighting it up offensively right now. I don't know what Martin can do to help me here, but I know Austin P can hang a big number on Martin and their horrendous defense. I'm hoping Martin can give me something. If they can, I think we get this game over the total. That's what I'm on, over 143 with UT Martin and Austin P. This game starts in minutes, so if you're joining me on this bet, make sure you get it in right now. Conor, what do you think, UT Martin, Austin P?
Yeah, I want nothing to do with. Hopefully Austin P blows them out, but I took him the other day. I don't want them laying this many points. No way. Maybe they win by that because I can't believe they lost to UT Martin the other day. So it's a pass for me, but I'd lean towards the over as well, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They lost to them the other day. I don't think they're going to fall asleep at the wheel this time around. And that's another reason
but I
like
think
the old
15, yeah, it's high. Yeah. I mean, I just don't want to lay that.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't necessarily want to either, but that's why I like the over because I think they'll pedal down to the floor kind of mentality here from Austin P. Austin P had played a bunch of games too where they're playing teams that were a lot of big games in conference play. They played Belmont, they played Murray State, they played a lot of marquee big time conference opponents, and sometimes you just have a fall flat spot and you lay a clunker, and that's clearly what happened against Tennessee Martin the last game. I think again I don't want to lay the points either, but I think the over makes sense because I think they'll keep the pedal to the metal, and Austin P will do enough to offensively to help the cause. Next up, we've got SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, Murray State, as we stay in the Ohio Valley for a couple more games here. Murray State, 12.5-point home favorites, 133.5, 134 the total. This is another one where the over makes some sense to me a little bit. Reasonable number, 133.5. I think both teams. Murray State's picked it up a little bit offensively. Murray State's defense has been a little bit up and down, not consistent one game to the next. And I find when they step down in class, their defense kind of goes away a little bit. I like the over here. Murray State has kind of started to cover some numbers. We talked about how poor they were point spread wise a few weeks ago. Getting a little bit better ATS wise lately, but I do like the over. Going to stick again with the total in this one. Conor, what's your thoughts?
I had nothing in this one. This was an ugly one. I quickly crossed off. I think it could get over, but I don't like it. So I passed all the way around.
Nothing wrong with that at all. There's a couple games that are starting on the added board, and I'm involved in them, I believe. No, actually, they're 5 p.m. On the added board. Okay, we're good. Never mind. Yeah. All right, Eastern Illinois, Jacksonville State, 8.5-point home favorites, 138.5 the total. Keep your eye on Eastern Illinois. Like, they stunk for the longest time, and maybe you get that little hint now that there's going to be residual value for just how bad they were. And the power rating kept dropping, every game with Eastern Illinois for how poorly they were playing. And you want to watch out for that absolute lowest point with this team and maybe look to ride them after that. And sure enough, 2-3 covers in their last 3 games. The only one was that loss to Belmont. Belmont is, annihilating everybody for the most part right now. Other than that, they beat Edwardsville by 9. They beat up on Tennessee State by 14. This is an experienced, solid team. They just dramatically underachieved. The bottom fell out, for the longest time for Eastern Illinois. Jacksonville State, on the other hand, they've won 2 in a row against Martin and SEMO, bottom feeders in the conference, but now they're back in that home favorite role. And you look at them in that home favorite role, Conor, 0-3 against the spread their last 3 tries, losing outright to Eastern Kentucky, losing outright to Morehead State, they did beat Tennessee State as home favorites, laying 6.5, but only by 1 point, 65-64. I get the sense EIU, like Iowa State, like Monroe, some of these other teams we've talked about, they were bad for so long that now, just as they're starting to pick things up now, there's some value in the number. I would only look to the Eastern Illinois side getting the points here. Connor, what do you think? Eastern Illinois, Jacksonville State.
I've liked Jacksonville State, and I love taking points with them. But we'll talk about it in the next game, too. These teams, when they start, this is the type, during the year where they're going to lay points. No way. This is pass all the way around, or I'd look towards the dog. So dog or pass, as they say, as they like to say. Dog or pass in this one. Eastern Illinois has looked bad all year, playing a bit better. I think they could cover this number. And Jacksonville State, been great all year at covering numbers. Now they're favored. And won some ball games, but I think the number's too stretched out. I think this should be like 3.5, 4. So I'd go with Eastern Illinois here. I don't know if I'm going to bet it yet, so it's one I have circled.
Idaho State, 8.5, 9-point home favorites here. The total in this one about 129. Idaho may be just that bad that even against a pretty mediocre Idaho State team, getting this number of points that I'm still shying away from fully trusting the Vandals. I mean, they haven't won a basketball game this year, for Christ's sake. I mean, they're 0-15 straight up, 4-11 against the spread. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious what we've seen here from Idaho. 1 point spread cover in their last 7 games, 1-6 ATS, and that point spread they lost by 14.
Wow.
Idaho State is. I understand why Idaho's only getting 9 here, because Idaho State is no great shakes either. That's not a good basketball team either. But my gosh, I'm not getting enough points with Idaho to trust them. Begrudgingly, I would lay the points if I had to. But the bottom line is, folks, for the good of your own sanity, just stay the hell off this basketball game entirely. Conor, what do you think here with these two?
You took the words out of my mouth. Stay off this game. If I had to, gun in my head, Idaho State, I'd lay it, which is crazy because you think this is a rivalry. Idaho State, there's stuff to play for, but Idaho's been that bad. And I want to take points, and especially in a situation like this, but they've showed nothing. Like you said, a 14-point loss is their best loss, so don't look at it, pass it, like you said.
All right, back to the Pac-12 here. Oregon, Arizona State. I'm mystified by this line move to put Arizona State now as the favorite in this game. 1.5-point home favorites, 151 the total. I think Oregon's the better basketball team, and I know they've had their bumps in the road. I know they've had guys missing in action the last few games. Of course, they had the shutdown, and Dana Altman said it. That that's what I love about Dana Altman. He's honest. He's going to tell it like it is. He gives you more quotes and good comments and things you can use handicapping these games than some coaches who give you bubkiss. They won't say a damn thing about the team and what they're doing. But he said, coming off the shutdown before they played Washington State on February 4th, that, he was worried. They had barely practiced. He was worried how sharp they were going to be. And sure enough, what happened? They lost outright as 11.5-point home favorites to Washington State. But the last game, it was a struggle for them. It took a while for them to get it going against a pretty poor Washington Huskies team, but they eventually did. Again, they didn't cover there, but they pulled away and got the 86-74 win. I think now Oregon is going to start shaking off the rust, shaking off the issues. They're getting healthier. Chris Duarte, I think, is going to play tonight with the ankle injury. I know he's questionable on some injury reports, but I'm expecting him to be there. Now you've had other guys that have had a few games now. Eugene Omoruyi's been back now for a couple. LJ Figueroa as well for Oregon. They could be still a little bit shorthanded, but they're Arizona State, to me, defensively. They're going to, I think, allow Oregon to get what they want offensively here in this game. Something tells me I think Duarte is going to play. And if he plays, that's going to make all the difference. If he plays and it's confirmed, I'm sure there's going to be some Oregon money coming in. So I don't mind locking in Oregon right now at plus 1.5. I'm not buying Arizona State off the 2 wins. I'm not. The Stanford win, Stanford was still shorthanded when they beat Stanford back on January 30th. They've now haven't played for 2 weeks. Shoes on the other foot now. Remember Oregon and Dana Altman talking about how they were worried about how they'd play coming off the layoff. It's Arizona State off a layoff going into this game tonight against Oregon. And before that, they beat Cal. Big deal. So, again, I'm not trusting Arizona State as chalk. You look at Arizona State as favorites. Look at the run as favorites right now. 1-4 against the spread their last 5 tries in the favorite role. It's not been a good one for them whatsoever. How about 1-8 ATS, their last 9 as a home favorite? 1-8 against the spread, last 9 as a home favorite. 2-10 against the spread, their last 12 home games overall here in Tempe. No, even if they're a bit short-handed, Oregon's the better of these two teams. I'll take the 1.5 with the Quackers. Conor, what do you think? Oregon, Arizona State.
Yeah, I've looked at this one from every angle and every way. I think if Duarte plays, I'm on Oregon as well. Like you said, Dana Altman saying they have to win. I mean, they can't lose this game. If they lose here, they could be out of the tournament.
Oh, they're on
really
fringe of the tournament status. They look like they were in for sure, and now all of a sudden they're wobbling a little bit in terms of their tournament status. Yep,
they're wobbling big time. So that's why if he's in, I think I'm going to be on Oregon. Arizona State, on the other hand, I watched that Stanford game, and that was a beat-up Stanford team. I took them. They didn't cover, and they could have missed free throws. Arizona State's going to give up a ton of points. They can't really – they have Remy Martin. They're very, guard-driven. Like, he's like James Harden. They don't pass the ball. And Oregon's defense works pretty good against like that. You got to move it against them. They play in that weird zone. So I just think the matchup's a little weird. That's why this game's got me kind of shaking my head a little bit. But if Duarte plays and I'd catch the 1.5, I'd lean with the Ducks. And I don't know about the total. I think it's a little high. Oregon's kind of been up and down. So I don't really love the over or the under here. I'm just going to pass.
Yeah, Jay Cash, no, I like a lot of games over. This is not one of them, actually, because I think Oregon's going to want to slow this thing down. There's no question about that. Slow it down and play in the half court. And if they get their preferred pace, Arizona State has to get in transition to work offensively. I've seen enough of Arizona State this year. You force them to have to move the ball around in the half court and find an open shot. They're awful. It's all about getting the basket quickly before the defense gets set. That's when they score. That's when the games go over the total. Oregon's not going to be able to let them do that, I think, because Oregon's good at slowing it down, good at playing in the half court. And I think matchup-wise, it's actually not bad for Oregon. I wish they were healthier, but that's also why I'm getting 1.5 with them and why they're not favored in this game because of the injuries. But, I still like Oregon here.
I lean under, and like you said, Arizona State's been had a hard time shooting the ball, like you mentioned. They just haven't been a great, three-point shooting team. So, yeah, I'd look towards the under a little bit in this one. I think the points are a little high at 151.5.
All right, Morehead State, Tennessee State. Morehead State, 7.5-point road favorites here. 130 the total in this game. Interesting matchup here. Morehead State, certainly it's a team that I think back half of the season has played better. No question. Tennessee State, I've ended up on the few games they've covered and played well, but obviously it's been a rough season for Tennessee State. 3-14 straight up, 4-12 against the spread. They're on a terrible slide right now. 4 straight losses straight up in ATS, losing all of them by 8 points or more. Yeah, to me, it would be a look to Morehead State. They've won their last 2 road games by 19 points against Jacksonville State and Tennessee Tech. They beat SEMO on the road by 14. They beat Eastern Illinois by 26 on the road. They've been road warriors. They've been good overall, Morehead State. 10 straight wins and 8-2 against the spread, but they've been especially good on the road. They've been solid the times they've been favorite. To me, this is Morehead minus 7.5 or don't play the game, as I'm concerned. What do you think here?
I agree. And even though I pump the brakes a little bit, laying 7.5, 8 when they're on the road, because this one could be where they might not cover. They're not at home. It's Morehead or pass, like you said. I'd lay the 7.5 here or pass.
All right, Eastern Kentucky and Belmont, Ohio Valley here. We've got Belmont laying a big number as always. 12-point home favorites, 161.5 the total here. I definitely think we're going to see significant offensive explosions here and points and pace. Belmont's pretty fast, and Eastern Kentucky plays even faster. They are an extreme tempo team, the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, but didn't get any bargains with this total here in the 160s. And a lot of these 160s are going under in college basketball here, I find, later in the conference season. So that's the concern. But, good luck still betting Belmont under the total. They've gone over in 7 of their last 9 games. Eastern Kentucky has gone over at a 6-1 clip in their last 7 games. So I don't want the under, but I don't know if I've got enough value in the over here in the 160. If it's 150s, I'm interested. They've been awesome as road dogs, Eastern Kentucky, but Belmont's been just this machine. They've been lights out. They've been blowing out teams left and right, except for Murray State and Austin Peay. Those were close games. Can Eastern Kentucky hang? I don't know. Home favorites, like look at these. They've laid waste to opponents at home. It's a lot of points, and Eastern Kentucky's been damn good in the road underdog role, but not going to go against Belmont. I've made that decision. I'm not going to do it, so it's a pass for me. Eastern Kentucky, Belmont. Conor, what do you see?
I think there will be points, but yeah, to reach 161, I don't know. I'm not going to take the over. I wouldn't bet the under either. I'd stay off the total in this one. Belmont's the better team here, but I think 12's a lot.
It's a lot.
Eastern Kentucky's a pretty good basketball team. I know they're on the road, but I'm going to take the 12 with Eastern Kentucky and close my eyes and take Eastern Kentucky plus 12.
That's they've been great as like 10-1 against the spread as a road underdog last 11. They've been awesome in this role. It's just Belmont's just so damn scary right now to be going against, but it's a lot of points. You're not getting the value is with EKU. Okay, let's put it that way. The value is definitely on their side. It's just a question of do you want to step in front of the Belmont Bruins train right now, who have been just surgical in conference play. Edwardsville, Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech 3-point home favorites here. 139 the total in this game. Tennessee Tech's just been awful. 0-5 straight up. They have covered some numbers though in that time span. The last two lost by 4 at SEMO, lost by 2 against Tennessee Martin. But now you're favored here as 2.5 3-point home favorites in this game against Edwardsville, which is kind of a little bit surprising in my mind. I know it's been a bit of a slide for Edwardsville, 4 losses in their last 5, but look at the opponents. P twice, or Eastern Illinois in a really tough spot, because I think that was the game where they were playing the third game in 4 days. It was a very tricky spot for Edwardsville. And then the other losses were Belmont and Eastern Kentucky, very good teams in this conference. So it's not like their losses, Edwardsville, have been against dregs or bad teams. They're facing a bad team here. Give me the points here with Edwardsville. I've cashed a couple with Edwardsville getting points. I've stayed off them, and good thing I have the last few. They've been on a little bit of a point spread slide. I think this is the right opponent and time to get back on them here, getting 3 points against Tennessee Tech. They might win outright. Conor, what do you think? SIU, Edwardsville, Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, I took them in the last one they lost, but I think here it's not a good spot all the way around, but I don't think Tennessee Tech should be laying any points to anybody. I think this should be a pick 'em right now, as bad as they are. Edwardsville's played a ton of games lately. I haven't bet yet, but I'm with you. I think I got to go with Edwardsville catching the 2.5. I think they might win this one outright. That's how much trust I have in Tennessee Tech, especially laying a bucket and a half at home. I go with Edwardsville.
All right, Fresno State Air Force. Fresno State, 4.5-point road favorites, 126.5 the total. A little Mountain West action now on this Thursday night. Sure as hell, I'm not laying 4.5 on the road with Fresno State. 0-5 straight up, 0-5 against the spread on the road this season. Not very good. You look at their wins in conference play. Wyoming at home in the back-to-back. Then they beat San Jose State twice at home, and they beat New Mexico twice at home. On the road, they haven't done a thing, this Fresno team. Now, I know Air Force is just dreadful. I understand that. But the last 2 games, against UNLV, competitive and covered. The 2 road games at the Thomas and Mack Center. 10-point loss, 5-point loss against UNLV on the road. That says something. Now they're back home. Now, granted, they haven't, even their home play this year, Air Force hasn't been that great here. Just 2-5 straight up at home. But I think back home, feeling a little bit, hey, we were fought pretty good, played better defensively, because defense has been atrocious for Air Force. And, to hold UNLV to 68 and 69 on the road, and that's pretty, that's at least signs of improvement for a team that hasn't played very good defense this year. Ugly home dog a little bit, yes, but I think the uglier bet is laying points with Fresno State in this game. So I like Air Force here. I'm going to take them plus the 4.5. Conor, what do you think? Fresno, Air Force?
Yeah, there's no way I'd want to lay points. I think Fresno should be laying a point right now. On the road. No way. They beat on a bunch of bad teams. That's why it looks weird. I'm with the plus 4.5 here, that Air Force, and I think it's under as well. I think first one to 60 maybe. So I'm taking the points and the under in this one.
All right, UNLV and Boise State. As we stay in the Mountain West here, Boise at home laying 10 points in this game against the Rebels. The total 140 in this game. Boise State's a very, very fascinating team to discuss right now because there are people that absolutely rip hell out of this team's record and saying, remember when they were going through that crazy onslaught? They were winning every game. They were covering every game. And we were just in a good bet against Boise State. But then you looked at their strength of schedule during that time, and they were going through all of those. There is a huge, there's an Atlantic Ocean sized gap between the top 3 or 4 teams in the Mountain West and the rest of the conference this year. I mean, there is a huge gulf between the top teams and the bottom teams in the Mountain West. And Boise's point spread run, for as good as it was against pretty much all the bottom feeders, the cream of the crap, as I like to say, in the Mountain West. Now you look at them as the schedule's toughened up. And look what we've seen for Boise. Colorado State and Nevada, both on the road. 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. And the only win was 85-77 against Colorado State. I thought for sure they would bounce back and win the second game at Nevada, but that was alarming to see them lose again, get shut down, and lose 73. And their defense now, as they've stepped up in class, hasn't been as good either. All of a sudden, and again, a product of shutting down bad teams and bad shooting teams. I would only look to UNLV here. I think there's a value issue with Boise. They're still being priced like that point spread covering machine they were earlier in the season. UNLV is not an upper echelon Mountain West team, but they're not an Air Force. They're not a San Jose State. They're not a New Mexico. They're not that bad in this conference. They're somewhere in between. And because I think they're somewhere in between, Boise State hasn't been covering against teams that are good or somewhere in between in this conference. They've only been covering against the weak, early on. So I think that's a lot of points. I think UNLV plus the double digits here. That would be the way I'd have to go if I'm betting this game from a side perspective. Conor, what do you think here? UNLV, Boise State.
Yeah, UNLV, I've had it, and that's my hometown. Usually I have a good read on them, but with COVID, the shutdowns, and Hamilton out kind of lately, it's been hard to.
Thankfully, he's playing tonight. There's no way I would take UNLV without him. He's in tonight.
If he's just pack it in. Take Boise. I think you're right. I think there's Boise. They're still treating Boise, and as a team that's at the top. I think they're just below that. They're with Colorado State, just under the top tier. So I think it's a little too many points here as well. I could see Boise. The only thing is, I caution. I haven't bet it yet. I'm gonna probably take UNLV catching the 10. Is they fade at the end of the second half. So they just, they get sloppy. If they can keep it together, and Hamilton can have a big game, I think UNLV can cover the 10 here.
Yeah, I think they can stay inside that number, UNLV. The more I think about it, I'll be looking that way. USC, Washington, USC 11.5-point road favorites here, total 147. It's a pass for me. I don't trust Washington to do anything for me, but I'm not laying 11.5 on the road with USC off the biggest win of their season, where they laid the absolute wood to UCLA, albeit a shorthanded, depleted. And we're going to talk about UCLA in a minute. They're very shorthanded. They're very depleted. They're a shell of the team they could be when they're fully healthy. And USC just did absolute damage and did a tap dance on UCLA in the crosstown rivalry, the Battle of LA over the weekend. It's just not the right spot to be laying 11.5 with USC. They're undoubtedly the better team. They're capable of covering this number, but off the biggest win of their season, spot-wise, that's not the spot I'm looking to lay doubles on the road. So it's a pass for me. Conor, what do you think? USC, Washington.
Yeah, I don't either. And I don't really want Washington that much here as well. They had those 2 home wins against Colorado and Utah, and kind of gone back on the losing end again. If I had to play it, I'd take the Huskies and the 11.5 if I had to. Double-digit dog at home in conference. Give me that. but I think I'm going to stay off this one. So it'd be the dog or pass here.
All right, final game on the main board, UCLA, Washington State. We've got UCLA 4-point road favorites, total 131.5 in this game. And there's just a boatload of questionables and injury and personnel issues with UCLA, and it's having an impact. That didn't look like UCLA on Saturday. That was a shell of the team that they could be, like I said, when they're fully healthy. But you're talking about, obviously we know Chris Smith out for the season, but it's not just that. It's Jalen Hill. It's Cody Riley. They're both questionable tonight, and those are two of their better players. If they don't have them tonight either, I think there's a good chance that Jalen Hill doesn't play. Cody Riley actually suit out. If he, they're in trouble. And Washington State's playing ball right now. They're playing better. They beat Oregon on the road. They beat Washington. They stumbled the last game against against Oregon State, but off the win against Oregon, I've seen that a lot of times. You have a big win against Oregon, you play Oregon State, you look past them completely. And I think Washington State was kind of guilty of that. I like Washington State's the way they've played at times at home this season. UCLA's just got too many issues. They have really, really had a tough time being able to get, all of these guys the more minutes now with all the depletion, and it's been tough on them. And they've been a point spread disaster, 0-5 against the spread their last 5 games, UCLA. So just too many concerns, too many potential absences. For me, it's home dog or nothing here. I would only look Washington State +4. Connor, what do you think of this one, Bruins and Cougars?
Yeah, UCLA is just depleted. And I think, and now with more of the guys being out, the Smith from the beginning, I thought when he went out, they held it together good, but it's just going to be tough. Washington State, like you said, plays well at home. I think I'm going to be on the Cougs here, catching the 4. I haven't just bet it yet. I got that game at Pauley Pavilion in my head where UCLA just kicked their ass by 30. And I was on Washington State, like catching 11 or something that day. I forget. But man, it's 2 different teams. But I think this one's a little bit different, and this is where you want Washington State is at home. So I'd look towards the home team catching the 4.5 in Wazoo.
All right, looking toward Washington State as well in this one. And that's the main board. Added board, briefly, I'll tell you what I like. I like Fairleigh Dickinson. That's a red-hot basketball team in the Northeast Conference. They're healthy finally. Yeah. They're playing their best ball. The betting markets are slow to adjust to them. Yeah, maybe earlier in the season, you could say Wagner, when Fairleigh FDU had all the injuries, you could say they were on par with Fairleigh. Not now. Not that Fairleigh's in good form and playing as well and healthy finally. I think they beat Wagner. I like them +1. I like there to be points in that game as well, over the total, 143.5. I like Winthrop laying 5 against Radford, and I also like the over in that game. I like the over in the Presbyterian-Hampton game. I like Gardner-Webb. Someone in the chat mentioned Gardner-Webb. Bounce back spot. I agree. I think they beat Longwood, laying the 2.5 in that one. Long Island, Brooklyn, +2.5 against Mount St. I like a lot in the added board today. Campbell, -4 against Upstate. And that's it. I didn't get involved with Merrimack, Central Connecticut, or the Battle of St. Francis. So that's what I'm looking at there. Fairleigh and over versus Wagner, Winthrop and over versus Radford, Presbyterian-Hampton over, Gardner-Webb, LIU, Brooklyn, and Campbell. So there you go. There's my added board bets. Connor, anything for you with the added board?
You can't go wrong with the Fairleigh Dickinson. They've been playing really well. Should be a good one against Wagner. I haven't taken Fairleigh Dickinson, but I think they could get the win. I think you're onto something there. I think there's a little value with Presbyterian, the Blue Hose, getting +3.5. I think there's value at Gardner-Webb. They had them big numbers, but I'd go with them. And I'm on Merrimack. I'm laying the 4 with Merrimack tonight. So give me Merrimack -4. You there? You're on mute. You're on mute, brother.
Yeah, Merrimack, liking them against Central Connecticut. Merrimack. One of those teams just not very good and not good defensively. I beg your pardon about Gardner-Webb Longwood. It has started. Yeah, it went off. They're up 14-12 in that game. So they're leading that game. So laying the 2. So that one started already. But the rest of them have it. The Fairleigh Dickinson starts at the top of the hour. Fairleigh Dickinson, Wagner at 5. I think that's probably my strongest one of the added board games is Fairleigh Dickinson +1. So that game hasn't started. That tips off at 5 p.m. Eastern. All right, we'll get to best bets in a second. I'm on a 6-1 run in my last 7 college basketball best bets here on the Closing Time Show. So it's been a good run. Added another one with Iowa State plus the points against TCU the other night. So we'll see if we can keep it going. Before we get to best bets, Connor, what are our sponsors saying?
Yeah, everyone, you guys need multiple books. If you haven't heard me say it before, go to mybookie.ag at promo code PubSports. Get 50% off your debit or credit, 100% off your Bitcoin. When you first put it in, use the Bitcoin. You put 1,000, you get 1,000, or at least you got to do a minimum of 100. Put 100, you get 100. And go to manscaped.com. Get 20% off. Keep everything shaved. Valentine's Day is coming up. Keep the face, the chest, everywhere else. Keep it tight for the ladies. Go to Manscaped, get the trimmer, 20% off your order. The ball deodorant, all the good stuff they got in the package there. So Manscaped, promo code PubSports, 20% off your order.
Great products. Actually, I should say it with a straight face. They do have good products. It's a very good company. They've got good products for that stuff. But it's just when you talk about the kind of product they have in verbal form, you can't help but chuckle a little bit. But hard to keep a straight face. But yeah, check them out definitely. Manscaped. All right, Connor Mack, best bet time for this Thursday college basketball slate. What are we going with tonight?
I'm going to the Mountain West with an ugly home dog. Going with Air Force, taking them +4.5. I think they can win outright. I don't think Fresno should be favored by anything, especially 4.5 on the road. So give me Air Force +4.5. Ugly home dog. I think they can maybe win outright.
All right, looking at the ugly home dog, Air Force +4.5 against Fresno State for Connor Mack. I'm going to go with the total with Iowa State, Kansas. I was debating Iowa State again, or I used Iowa State the other night. I think they get it done too. Iowa State plus the points, but I think the over is the better look. Kansas has been trending over. Iowa State 7 straight to the over. 144 is the total at Bet Online. There's a 144 out there still. So I'm going to go with that. Let's take Iowa State, Kansas over 144 for my best bet for this Thursday night in college basketball. Let's see if we can make it 7-1 run with the best bets on the show. Bill McDonald saying Stanford best bet for him. Yeah, Stanford's up there on my card. It's not best bet, but it's like fringe top 5 bet for me tonight, I would say, on the card. I do like Stanford there in that. Minnesota's up there too. I like them against Purdue quite a bit to get the home win. There we go. That'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Another edition of the College Basketball Closing Time Show. Next college basketball edition will be Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, getting you ready for the massive, as always, Saturday college basketball card. Connor and I will be back tomorrow with Ski Profit for the Friday NBA Closing Time Show, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Join us for that. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. Cash some tickets. We'll see you again tomorrow for the NBA Closing Time Show on Friday right here on Pub Sports Radio.